Good Erev Shabbos. This week's Parsha of Teruma, not only Teruma, Tetzaveh, Kisisa, Vayakal, Pekudes, we're talking about the series of the 5 upcoming Parshios are dedicated to the first really building campaign in Jewish history. The first 2 Parshios are the solicitation and detailing of how the construction of the building of the Mishkan took place, the tabernacle, specifically the building of the structure of the central house of worship took place. First, the vessels, the kalim, the menorah, the aron, the ark, the shulchan, the mizbeach, the altar, as well as the actual structure with the krushim, the beams, the curtains on top, the hooks, and so on and so forth. Next week's portion, Tetzaveh, talks about the vestments of the Kohanim, their garments. Kisisa talks about the actual enlistment of the craftsmen, Tzalel and his team of craftsmen, Ahaliyav and their team coming together. And finally, Vayakal Pekude talks about the team of Tzalel and Ahaliyav constructing not only the Mishkan, the structure and the kalim, the vessels, but the vestments for the Kohanim, but the culmination of this whole process was the erection of the Mishkan, with Moshe erecting the Mishkan at the conclusion of Sefer Shemos. And then we conclude Sefer Shemos with Moshe erecting the Mishkan. So this whole process takes a series of 5 weeks of weekly Torah readings. So it would seem on a certain level for there to be some sort of disconnect as we go through these weekly Torah readings. I say some sort of disconnect because there doesn't seem to be too much practical relevance to our daily lives. After all, we're talking about once upon a time, the way the Mishkan was built, the way the Mishkan was constructed, the way the vessels were constructed, the way the ark, the way the shulchan, the table, the way the menorah was constructed. But what does it have to do with us in our times, the way the vestments were crafted and so on and so forth, the fabrics, the fine fabrics and the precious metals and so on and so forth. But upon closer reflection, upon closer study, the rabbis and the Mefarshim, the commentators, have taught us that indeed there is a lot of profound symbolism that is in fact very relevant to our lives. And I just want to quote one central idea that's very relevant to our lives. The beginning of the whole parsha over here in Parshas Teruma, God says to Moshe, it says, "V'asuli mikdash." God says to Moshe, "You shall make for me a mikdash. You shall make for me a sanctuary. V'shachanti b'socham. I will dwell among them. I will dwell among them," in the plural tense. And the Medrash is somewhat bothered by this phraseology. I will dwell among them, even though there was just only one Mishkan. There was only one. There was only one central house of worship. So what does it mean? I will dwell among them. So the Medrash concludes with Sol Kol Echad B'Echad. The message is that God is not dwelling in one central house of worship. God is dwelling within every single Jewish soul. The soul Kol Echad B'Echad. Now this is a very profound message because Sometimes we're looking outward. We're looking outward towards finding meaning. We're looking outwards towards finding connection. Where are we going to find that spiritual connection? Where are we going to find that spiritual connection? We need to go to Israel. We need to go to Uman. We need to go to a certain destination. We need to go to the Kotel. We need to go to Miron. We need to go somewhere. We need to go to wherever it is, Bnei Brak, Lakewood, wherever it is, to find that spiritual connection. We have to realize that the Shekhinah dwells within each and every single person. In the beginning of creation, it says, God created man. What was the recipe of man? Afar min ha'adama, it was dust from the earth. He infused with him a living soul. So that's what man is comprised of. Part body and part soul. So within every single person has this living soul. This living soul comes from Hashem himself. And as we are in this earth, this living soul wants to connect. This living soul wants to connect to God. This living soul wants to connect to Torah. This living soul wants to connect to mitzvahs. This living soul wants to connect to spirituality. You don't need to go anywhere. You don't need to go to any external destination. We just have to nurture this inner soul by itself. And when we don't nurture this inner soul feels this emptiness. This inner soul feels depleted. This inner soul feels dehydrated. That's why I think sometimes when this inner soul is not taken care of, middle of our lives, we come to this stage, what's called midlife crisis. People that are spiritually nourished, people that are wake up every single morning and have meaning and purpose, and they pray to their creator and they study Torah and they have meaning and purpose. I don't think they have midlife crisis because they have that connection. They don't feel a need to do something exotic for a midlife crisis. We have to remember this message. The true temple is not some edifice, is not some grand structure. Yes, there is a temple that we hope and pray for in Jerusalem one day. But the truest of temples is within every single person, because every single person is created in the image of God. So let us pay attention to that. Let us pay attention to our inner spark that needs to be nourished and taken care of. So let us not forget that. Asuli Mikdash, God created this inner spark within each and every single person. Let us nurture, cultivate, and develop that inner spark. I wish you all a good Erev Shabbos.